Welcome back, Screenranters. Chair shots, unalive morticians, excessive pyro, soap opera drama, incredible athleticism. Yeah, we're doing a video on professional wrestling. We're going to look at the creme de la creme of wrestling TV shows and films. All the productions that you should see, even if you aren't a wrestling fan, but especially if you love a bit of action in the squared circle. That sounded like a euphemism. Ugh. We're going to look at Oscar-nominated films, cult classics, a Netflix show that ended in controversial fashion, and documentaries that peel back the curtain of the industry. So grab your spandex, decide if you're heel or face, and let's get started, ya marks.
Sounds groovy, baby. I'm in.
We kick off with one of the recent wrestling-themed biopics, Fighting with My Family. This 2019 film is all about the rise of British-born fighter Saraya as she signs on with the WWE to become Paige. She's played by Florence Pugh, who would go on to fight with a different kind of family in the critically acclaimed Midsommar later that year. Oh, and she's in some comic book movie or something. It's coming out next year, I think? Whatever. For a film all about the inside of the business, it's directed by comedy legend Stephen Merchant. Despite his unfamiliarity with the subject matter before signing on, he captures the character's love and passion for wrestling really, really well. As you might glean from the title, the film focuses a lot on Paige's family life, especially in relation to her brother Zach, who was unable to achieve his wrestling dream. Since the flick tries to keep it as realistic to what actually happened as possible, in the end we have Paige arrive on the main stage to address AJ Lee. However, wrestling fans may notice that Lee doesn't look like herself, since at the time of the production, she had left the company. So instead the role was played by Zelina Vega. Behind the scenes, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson produced the film, and being the people's champion, he of course shows up just long enough to give the people exactly what they want.
What you want? What you want? How about what The Rock wants? The Rock wants you to go out there, take no prisoners, have no regrets, have no fear. Lay it all out on the line.
Recently, Netflix decided to upset all the fans of their hit TV show, Glow. Originally, the Alison Brie vehicle was coming back for a fourth and final season. Yet, due to the current worldwide events, the streaming site chose to cancel it at 3 seasons and not give us that sweet, sweet closure.
Contracts! Get your contracts, yeah?
Glow was one of the most popular shows on their service. It takes the real-life story of the gorgeous ladies of wrestling and turns it into a comedy drama that hit hard in all the right ways.
I have done everything I can think of to make this right.
The story involves a group of women all trying to get their wrestling promotion off the ground. Set in the 1980s, there is a lot of hairspray and over-the-top outfits to grab people's attention. Then the stories about sexism in the industry, complicated personal lives, and a show struggling to survive kept the audience returning for more. Glow even had numerous pro wrestlers make appearances, such as Kia Stevens, who plays Tame Dawson, aka the Welfare Queen.
I lives like a queen, a welfare queen.
Stevens was Karma in WWE, but she's best known for being Awesome Kong in Impact and AEW. We also see Chavo Guerrero, John Morrison, Carlito, Brodus Clay, and Christopher Daniels, to name a few. In 1999, the behind-the-scenes knowledge of the industry was being exposed more and more. Kayfabe was on life support. Fun wrestling terminology for you. You're welcome. Anywho, that year, comedy screenwriter Barry Blaustein released his documentary Beyond the Mat. It examined the biggest names in American wrestling at the time and looked at their personal lives. We see Terry Funk retiring for the 154th time. We see Mick Foley and his family life. Hey, The Rock is here again. Oh no. Anyway, we also see the fall of Jake the Snake Roberts and how he'd gone from being one of the biggest names in the industry to his addiction problems and financial difficulties. Don't worry though, he's doing much better today, thanks in part to help from Diamond Dallas Page, as seen in the documentary The Resurrection of Jake the Snake. Beyond the Mat is a fascinating peek behind the curtain as wrestling was experiencing one of its most popular periods, punctuated by WWE's Attitude Era and the so-called Monday Night Wars with WCW. On top of the big names, we also get to see wrestlers attempting to join the then WWF and the process of how that worked at the time. As there are so many cameos from wrestlers, it's also fun to pick them out on screen. Yep, we know how to have lots of fun around here. Party animals, a whole lot of us. In 2019, the world was introduced to the Peanut Butter Falcon. It's an adventure film about Zach, who has Down syndrome, running away from his care home in order to become a wrestler. This film warmed my cold, cold heart. We see an unlikely friendship bloom between Zach and Tyler, who might look a little familiar to you. He was in the best kids film of all time, 2003's Holes. That's right, it's Shia, Just Do It, LaBeouf. Falcon also had Dakota Johnson, the rapper Yellow Wolf, and the Punisher himself, John Bernthal, involved. Tyler becomes a trainer of sorts to help Zach in his quest to join the Saltwater Rednecks wrestling school. By the end of the film, we actually get to see Zach wrestle in a backyard ring. This scene also involves a couple of actual wrestlers. Zach's opponent, Sam, is played by Jake the Snake Roberts, who looks so much better than his beyond the mat appearance. Must be all that yoga. Jacob, the referee, is played by Mick Foley, aka Mankind, aka Dude Love, aka Cactus Jack. Bang bang! If you like cartoons and fun wrestling stories mashed up together, then WWE's Story Time might be for you. Each episode has various current and former wrestlers provide a story that happened during their careers. As they chat, we have the tale animated, all to spark a funny. One story involves Chris Jericho going over the time he gave Vince McMahon a list of ideas for his character. Aww. The hilarious animation is done by Lowbrow Studios. They're best known for their work with Dorkly, especially the great Pokemon Rusty series. If you wanted animated wrestling shenanigans that don't involve real-life grapplers, then 2009's The Haunted World of El Superbeasto may be more up your alley. The bonkers flick was directed by Rob Zombie. Yep, the former White Zombie frontman, who basically created his own horror subgenre, also directed a feature-length animated film. And no, it's not for kids. The story involves a former wrestler turned super spy trying to save the world. It's insane, absurd, and often quite graphic. But that's what makes it great. It also has an MCU and future Star Wars star lending her voice to the role. Rosario Dawson plays Velvet Von Black. Bonus entry for all you book-reading types: if you like comics and wrestling, then the comic book story of professional wrestling is for you. Created by Aubrey Sitterson and Chris Marino, the book explores the detailed, incredible history of the sport. It's a brilliant and easy read that even includes a section on Lucha Libre, but we'll get to that in a bit.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are ready to rumble!
While the WWE and WCW were going head-to-head in the Monday Night Wars, the film Ready to Rumble was released in 2000, not to be confused with the song Let's Get Ready to Rumble by the UK's PJ and Duncan, also known as Ant and Dec. Nice obscure music reference for you. Well, you know, makes me feel good about myself. Anyway, the 2000 film was made with the WCW team, so there is a heavy focus on the promotion, with many cameos from their stars at the time, such as Diamond Dallas Page, Sting, and Goldberg. We even get to see Randy Savage pop up. It was a couple of years before he took on Spider-Man as Bonesaw. Adding some more traditional acting pedigree are Oliver Platt, Scott Caan, and David Arquette, the latter of whom actually wrestled a couple of times for WCW in order to promote the film. At the time, Ted Turner's promotion was losing the ratings war to Vince McMahon's, so they decided to put their most prestigious belt, the World Heavyweight Championship, on Arquette. It didn't go down well. In fact, stay tuned for 3, 2, 1, now! So, this year we got the release of a documentary that wrestling fans didn't know they wanted until it arrived. Once it came out, it was a great insight into perhaps one of the craziest moments to happen in professional wrestling: WCW handing their biggest title to a non-wrestling actor. Unfortunately, because it was his face on screen, Arquette received the backlash from fans, even though he had nothing to do with the decision and tried to argue against it. Arquette also explains in the film how the WCW incident derailed his rising acting career. The documentary follows Arquette as he attempts to make a comeback of sorts in wrestling. We see Arquette struggle to get into ring shape with vigorous training, as well as the damage he experiences, both physically and mentally, from this endeavor. He even took part in a hardcore match. Arquette does this because he loves the sport of wrestling. It's not like he's a young chap either. As of this video going out, he's 49 years old. As such, it's even more amazing that he's doing this at all.
Does it look alright?
We'll break the mold a little by talking about 2014's Foxcatcher. This 5-time Oscar-nominated film focuses on the sport of amateur wrestling. If you don't know the difference between this and pro wrestling, that's what Screenrant is here for. Pro wrestling is predetermined. As such, the outcome is already agreed upon, and the match takes artistic license to make it more dramatic. Amateur wrestling is a typical sports sport where the outcome isn't agreed upon. That's how sports work, I think. It's all down to the competition. Plus, you won't see anyone trying to do Scotty 2 Hottie's worm in amateur wrestling, which is really disappointing. Anyway, Foxcatcher explores the story of Mark and Dave Schultz as they train for the 1988 Olympics with the aid of John DuPont. It stars Channing Tatum, Mark Ruffalo, and Steve Carell. We see how the team progresses in their pursuit, as well as their, regressions. Fun fact, the injury he sustains is very real. Tatum went through the stunt glass and into the drywall, which is probably the closest scene in Foxcatcher to pro wrestling. Just watch old ECW matches if you don't believe us. In 2006, the world lay witness to a film all about Mexico's wrestling style, Lucha Libre. Sort of.
When you are a man, sometimes you wear stretchy pants.
It was the comedy film Nacho Libre with Jack Black in the lead role. The story goes that Black's character, Ignacio, is a cook at a monastery, yet he's always dreamed of being a wrestler. With the monastery struggling, he decides to become a masked luchador named Nacho. He signs up for a tournament in order to make cash for the children he looks after. The film didn't get the best critical reaction when it was released, but it still made triple its budget at the box office. Within the film's cast was a number of pro wrestlers, such as the Silver King, who played Ramses. Along with many other companies, he also made appearances for WCW. In one match, Nacho faces off with the tag team Los Duendes. One of the wrestlers is Mascarita Dorado. He played El Torito, the mascot for the Los Matadores in WWE. There was also the Human Tornado, who played the character El Snowflake. He was a world and tag team champion with current WWE star Sami Zayn. El Generico. Kayfabe, people! To finish off, we have perhaps the biggest film about professional wrestling, 2008's The Wrestler. The 2-time Oscar-nominated film is often brought up when talking about the best sports films of all time. Mickey Rourke plays the alliteration-themed character Randy the Ram Robinson in this Darren Aronofsky flick. Robinson is an older wrestler whose best days in the squared circle are well behind him. However, with his health in decline, he struggles to find a life outside of the ring. He decides to have one last match to reclaim his glory days, which doesn't exactly go to plan. It touches on issues that many former wrestlers have gone through. In fact, any professional sports person that's hung up their career can probably relate to Robinson in some capacity.
That'll work.
Ding, ding, ding! Which of our entries is your favorite? Let us know in the comments below. If you liked the video and want to see more, please like, share, and subscribe. All of those actions will really help us out. Finally, thanks for joining us today. Bye-bye.